Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on the two noble kinsmen and we're going to wrap up Act 4 today. We are in Act 4, Scene 3, and we get to hear from the doctor because aside from the two noble gentlemen and a handful of others, Shakespeare decided he didn't really need to name characters in this particular play. So you remember we have the jailer and we have the jailer's daughter and then we have the wooer of the jailer's daughter. Well, the three of them, well, the jailer's daughter isn't quite there yet, but the jailer and the wooer are there with this doctor, and the doctor is trying to figure out from the jailer what his daughter's symptoms are because she's not doing so well. She was like kind of in Ophelia mode a little while ago, talking about random things, and she thought that they were all on a boat, so said they all needed to go north because that's where Palamon was and all that sort of thing. And a lot of this was probably brought on by the fact that she was wandering around the woods by herself for a couple of days, not eating, not drinking, not sleeping, thinking that Palamon had deserted her and maybe gotten killed by wolves, and then also that her father was going to be killed because she broke Palamon out of jail. So we've got the guilt, we've got the starvation, we've got the dehydration, we've got the confusion, the disorientation, the feelings of loss and guilt and all of this sort of stuff, and she's not really well. She's just kind of babbling nonsense at this point. So the jailer has brought in this doctor and is trying to explain her symptoms and that she's, not really with it, and then she herself comes in full-on Ophelia mode at this point. I mean, she even says some of the same stuff that Ophelia does. She references a song she references Downa. I know Ophelia says, "Oh, a Downa, Downa," a couple of times as she's singing. The jailer's daughter says that. She talks about how you have to have a silver coin on your tongue before you can get into the boat that will take you to the next place. And then she goes into these long descriptions of what happens to people when they go to hell. But she's talking about it just very, this is normal and this is matter of fact and this is what's going on and all that sort of thing. And meantime, the jailer and the wooer and the doctor are just sort of watching her like, whoa, because remember when the wooer found her, she also tried to throw herself into the river, but he sort of rescued her. And she leaves the scene a couple of times and comes back a couple of times talking about other different things, and finally she leaves and they're like, so how do we help her? What do we do? I mean, you can see she's really messed up. And the doctor's like, well, did she ever love anybody before she loved this Palamon that she keeps talking about? And they're like, well, she was supposed to be with the wooer. And the wooer's like, yeah, and I thought that we were on the same page. I was ready to marry her and be with her and give her everything. And I thought that she felt the same way about me, but I guess we don't know. And the doctor says, that intemperate surfeit of her eye hath distempered the other senses. They may return and settle again to execute their preordained faculties, but they are now in a most extravagant vagary. This you must do. Confine her to a place where the light may rather seem to steal in than be permitted. Take upon you, young sir, her friend, the name of Palamon. Say you come to eat with her and to commune of love. This will catch her attention. For this her mind beats upon. Other objects that are inserted between her mind and eye become the pranks and friskins of her madness. Sing to her such green songs of love as she says Palamon hath sung in prison. Come to her, stuck in as sweet flowers as the season is mistress of, and thereto make an addition of some other compounded odors which are grateful to the sense. All this shall become Palamon. For Palamon can sing, and Palamon is sweet and every good thing. Desire to eat with her, crave her, drink to her, and still among intermingle your petition of grace and acceptance into her favor. Learn what maids have been her companions and playfares, and let them repair to her with Palamon in their mouths, and appear with tokens as if they suggested for him. It is a falsehood she is in, which is with falsehoods to be combated. This may bring her to eat, to sleep, and reduce what's now out of square in her into their former law and regiment. I have seen it approved. How many times I know not, but to make the number more, I have great hope in this. I will, between the passages of this project, come in with my appliance. Let us put it in execution and hasten the success, which, doubt not, will bring forth comfort. So he's got a plan. This doctor has a plan because he says that her senses are so out of whack. She's not connected to anything. She's not really connected to the outside world, and they need to smack her senses back to where they need to be. And he figures that her vision is one of the ones that's really getting her right now. Like, she saw Palamon, so she's fixated on Palamon, and he's like, we need to stimulate her other senses in order to bring her back to being a full person. So let's put her in a room that's kind of dimly lit, if not completely dark, and we'll have the wooer pretend to be Palamon. He should come over and have dinner with her and talk of love to her and sing songs, because that gets the auditory senses. The food brings in taste. He's like, bring in flowers and things that smell really nice to stimulate those senses. And if we surround her with all of these other things, taking out the vision a bit because she'll be a little bit in darkness, then she can slowly come back to being a whole person and using her ears and using her nose and using her sense of taste and all that sort of thing. He's like, have her friends that she's been talking about come over and talk to her about Palamon and bring little tokens and whatever. But he's also like, while this is going on, you, the wooer, can also be talking up yourself, and I'll come in intermittently and do what I do. I'll minister to her what other things I can, so that hopefully she'll start eating again, she'll start sleeping again, and all of these things will bring her back to being a full, whole, centered person who's grounded in reality and in touch with reality. So it's an interesting therapy, I think, to cut off the vision but stimulate all of the other senses to try to bring her back to her senses is sort of what he's talking about. We need to stimulate the mind with all of the other stuff so that the mind returns to where it's supposed to be. But he's like, yeah, let's start doing this now. So they all leave the scene to go do that now, and that's the end of Act 4. So tomorrow we start digging into Act 5. We still got to have the battle with the pole. We got to figure out who's going to marry Amelia. We got to figure out what happens to the guy who loses in the poll. We got to figure out if the jailer's daughter comes back to any semblance of being human. Does she actually end up with Palamon or with the wooer? There's still plenty of questions to be answered in Act 5. So come on back tomorrow for more. I'll see you then. Mwah.